everyone, and welcome to the Center for Spiritual Formation here at First United Methodist Church of Baton Rouge. My name is Karen Miliotto, and I am pretty jazzed to be here with all of you today for the first episode of our online Advent workshop series, Projects and Practices. Now, if you're just tuning in and you have no idea what it is that we're up to, let me just give you a brief recap. We are coming together virtually this afternoon to explore how some of our favorite projects can become prayer practices when we approach them in a certain way. So today's project is an Advent wreath. Now, if you're watching this video and you decide that you'd like to participate, we do have a few more of these kits available for $15. You can pick them up at the church, but we also online have a list of supplies and printable prayer cards that you can access if you go to our website. You know, it's funny, when I first started making plans for these workshops, I had so many mental images of what we could do together in my mind, and it was almost as if I could see these projects coming together before they ever came about. Have you ever had a similar experience where you could just see something so clearly before it even started to happen? And that's how a creative venture starts, right? Where we kind of locate within ourselves this image of something that can be, and then we move in a way that makes it start to happen. But we always start with nothing, right? Nothing tangible, at least. Kind of like this bucket, right? Just like, what is this? But seriously, does anything in your life feel a bit like this bucket right now? Really, I want you to think about it. What things feel empty? You know, what might be out there on the table of your life that you just look at and think, what is this? What is the purpose of this? Or where is it going? Or maybe there's something that just feels kind of void of meaning, or like nothing will ever come of it, right? Like something empty, and you can't imagine what it would ever look like for it to become filled. So as we consider that, let's reach into our bags and grab those prayer cards that are printed out in there. And if you have scissors handy, let's cut them out so that we can begin to write some of what is stirring in us about the empty bucket down, right? I've come to find in my own life that sometimes some of my best reflections come when I'm doing something like cutting or digging or rearranging my Tupperware. It's just like the prayers move along with my hands. But seriously, take some time to consider the places that might feel as if there's just nothing. And remember, as you do that with God, you have permission to feel whatever it is that you're feeling right now. Sometimes I have to remind myself of that. And the best reminder of all time is Jesus, right? Because in the Gospels, we see a person who experienced the full range of feelings and express them all to God in prayer. So I want to just invite you to remember that you can do that too. I'm not the neatest cutter on the planet. I hope you guys can do a better job than me. I'm like a kindergarten art project. But again, God's okay with that too. God doesn't care if my art projects are Pinterest worthy. But you'll see in these cards the names of the candles of our Advent wreath: hope, the way, joy, peace. And I want you to ask yourself, what do these words bring to mind for you as you read them? You know, how do you feel when you read the word hope? Or how do you, what are your thoughts about the way? Can you access joy right now? Or does it feel a little bit out of reach? And is peace something that you can catch a glimpse of? You know, or is that vision somewhat obscure? Kind of a bit like the bucket, maybe, where you look at these words and you think, those are really hard to imagine. You know, I can't imagine myself being filled up by joy right now. And after you finish cutting them out, I want to just invite you to write any of the things that have come up as you thought about that down on these cards. You know, do you have a specific prayer that might be trying to come out in any of these areas? It could be a word of praise or gratitude to God, but it could also be a request for God's presence. You know, you might be asking God to act in your life in these ways. So this week we're talking about darkness as we journey together through our Advent guidebook. And the thing about darkness is that there's no vision. We're incapable of seeing in the dark. And without vision, everything is empty, right? There's nowhere to go. There's no image of anywhere we could move from where we are onward. There's no creating, right? because creativity begins with vision. And so we're all just stuck with nowhere to go, no hope, no way, no peace, no joy. It really is just a bunch of nothing. Can you imagine a world with no light, with no vision? What would that be like? So this is how we begin Advent, in this place of recognizing the implications of a life lived in the dark, of a world blanketed by night, where we're all just left to wonder, what is the purpose? What's the meaning? What do we do with all of this nothing, and how could it ever become something more? And what would that mean for our prayers? You know, when we're praying for hope in the way and for peace and joy, what are we asking for? So let's turn to our bags right now. And in the bottom of the bag, you should find a little bit of styrofoam. You can just pop that right into your bucket. And then you'll also find 5 candles. And you can begin filling that space with your candles and think about all of the things that shift when light comes into the world. You know, Jesus said, I am the light of the world. There is no darkness. What does that mean? And Jesus also said, we are the light of the world. So then what does that tell us about our purpose here in this life? We have the opportunity to be light in the world, which means we can help other people catch a vision of their own. Isn't that amazing? And so once you've got your candles in place, you'll find a little bag of moss, and just you can fill it in around the spaces where your candles aren't. You know, just fill it in. Keep in mind, like, fire is a thing, and try to keep your fire hazard level low as you do this. That's just my suggestion to you. Unless you feel like burning your house down, which I don't think most people want to do that. That's not what we mean by being the light of the world. But the moss is a great reminder of life, right? Like, all of the visions that we read about the coming of Christ are speaking into these barren places with a message of life, right? Like, you know, the prophet Isaiah was speaking to Jerusalem that was just like leveled by destruction, and he spoke of restoration. Elizabeth, who was going to one day carry John the Baptist, an elderly woman having a baby in her womb, that just makes no sense. Or the Virgin Mary, who brought Jesus into the world. Let this moss or whatever greenery you choose to put in here remind you of life coming forth from nothing. And think about the words that Mary chose to use when she responded to Gabriel. How can this be? Always keep in mind that when God is working, how could it not be? And now let's grab this second sheet of cards and begin to cut it out. And on this, you'll find instructions for the lighting of the candles each week. I have a hole punch along with my scissors, so it's going to make it a little bit easier for me. But you guys can also just use your scissors if you don't have a hole punch handy. But just cut it out. The very top left one just says what to do each week. And it points you to our Advent guidebook, which there's a copy of that book in your kit if you got a kit. If you didn't get a kit, there's a copy of it on our website. And again, kindergarten craft levels over here on my end of the spectrum. But I invite you guys to bring your best selves to this project. This is my best self, truthfully, when it comes to cutting stuff. So. And then you can put them in order. This one goes on top. Week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4, and then there's one for Christmas Eve when you can light the Jesus candle. And pop a little hole in the top center. And I need my dust buster later with all this moss and hole punching happening. But pull this purple ribbon through, and then you can tie it here. Purple is a wonderful color, and it means something in our church. It stands for royalty, and also repentance. You know, this idea of we're coming into this season recognizing all the things that block our vision and turning them over to God so that we can see, you know, and all the things that take up room within our hearts, turning those over to God so that there's room for the vision of His kingdom to grow within us. And then you'll also find in your bag a little bit of glitter, purple glitter and pink glitter. You can put those in 3 of the candles purple, 1 of the candles pink. The pink signifies rejoicing and celebration and feasting at the coming of Jesus' birth. So pop that in there, and then you're going to be ready to go for your Advent wreath. And I'm so grateful that you joined me for this project. I hope it was a blessing to you. I hope you really just enjoyed it. So thanks for coming. Have a good day.